June 12, 1962, 7:18 a.m., Alcatraz Island, San Francisco Bay, California. A guard named Bill Long finishes his coffee. He sets the mug down. He walks the familiar stretch of cell block B, the same stretch he has walked 1,000 mornings before. He already knows what he's going to see. Rows of sleeping men, motionless, silent. The routine is so embedded in muscle memory that he barely looks anymore. Then he looks. Cell B, 138. Something is wrong. He reaches through the bars and pushes the sleeping figure. The head rolls off the pillow and hits the floor with a hollow thud. It is made of plaster. Bill Long's face goes pale. He checks the next cell. Another dummy head. Then the next. 3 cells. 3 men. Gone. The prison erupts into chaos. Sirens, radio calls, a full lockdown of the island. Coast Guard boats are dispatched into the bay. FBI agents are notified. The US military is put on alert. By the time the world learns what has happened, 3 men are already somewhere out there, in the dark, freezing water of San Francisco Bay. And nobody on Earth knows if they are alive or dead. They still don't. But to understand how 3 men walked out of the most secure prison in American history, using nothing but spoons and raincoats, we need to go back to the beginning. Alcatraz. Even the name sounds like a warning. Sitting 1.5 miles off the coast of San Francisco, the island fortress known as The Rock was never meant to be escaped from. It was designed to be the last stop, the place you went when you had run out of chances everywhere else. When it opened as a federal penitentiary in 1934, during the height of America's war on crime, it held only the worst of the worst. Al Capone, George Machine Gun Kelly, Robert Stroud, the Birdman of Alcatraz. Out of 25,000 federal inmates across the entire country, only 250 men were dangerous enough to be sent here. The most aggressive, the most assaultive, the most escape-prone 1%. The water around it was the real prison. Frigid, fast-moving, less than 55 degrees Fahrenheit. Even professional open-water swimmers timed their crossings to the exact minute, catching the single window each day when tidal currents briefly slackened. Get the timing wrong by even 30 minutes and the bay would carry you straight out under the Golden Gate Bridge and into the open Pacific. Nobody had successfully escaped Alcatraz since it became a federal prison. Not once in 28 years. That was about to change. Frank Morris arrived at Alcatraz in January 1960. He was 33 years old, quiet, easygoing, the kind of man guards liked despite themselves. But beneath that calm exterior was something the federal system had never quite accounted for. An IQ of 133, one of the highest ever recorded on the island. Morris had been in and out of correctional facilities since he was 13 years old. Orphaned at 11, bounced between foster homes. His first conviction came before he was old enough to drive. Bank robbery, burglary, narcotics. Each time he was locked up, he found a way out. He had escaped from prison before, more than once, which was precisely why he was sent to Alcatraz. Officials believed the Rock would finally hold him. They were wrong. Later that same year, John Anglin arrived. His brother Clarence followed in early 1961. The 3 men were placed in adjoining cells, B138, B140, B150, and they already knew each other. They had crossed paths in prisons across Florida and Georgia, and now here they were, side by side on the island with no name. That was the system's first mistake. The plan didn't start with blueprints or grand strategy. It started with a set of discarded saw blades found in the prison workshop. Small, dull, overlooked. Morris looked at them and saw something else entirely. From those blades, The group fashioned the tip of a homemade drill, powered by a motor stripped from a broken vacuum cleaner. Every evening during the prison's designated music hour, Morris sat on his bunk and played his concertina, an accordion-like instrument he'd purchased for $28.69 from his prison trust fund. The music filled the cell block. Guards nodded along. Nobody paid attention to the low grinding sound underneath it. Behind each cell, hidden beneath the sink, sat a ventilation duct, decades old. The surrounding concrete was deteriorating, weakened by years of salt air and moisture rolling in from the bay. Morris and the Anglins began drilling, slowly, methodically. Night after night for 6 months, they bored closely spaced holes around the ventilation covers until the entire section of the wall could be removed like a panel. When guards approached, the holes disappeared, covered by painted cardboard strips. A suitcase leaned against the wall, a piece of fabric. To the casual eye, nothing. To anyone who looked closely, nothing either, because nobody looked closely. What happened next changed everything. Behind the wall was a narrow utility corridor, unguarded, forgotten, 3 stories tall. The men had been using it as a secret workshop for months. Alan West, a 4th inmate assigned to paint the cell block roof, had been left unsupervised by guards who simply didn't monitor him. He used that access to build a workshop on the roof itself, a place to assemble the most audacious piece of engineering in the history of American crime. A raft, 6 feet by 14 feet, constructed from over 50 rubber raincoats stolen from fellow inmates, stitched, glued, and sealed using steam pipes. 2 crude paddles carved from scrap wood, life jackets assembled from the same material, and a bellows made from Morris's concertina to inflate the entire structure. The dummy heads came last, built from cement fragments, cotton pulled from torn blankets, soap, flesh-tone paint, and real human hair collected from the prison barbershop. Crude, almost grotesque up close, but at night, through the bars, at a distance, in low light, they were convincing enough. The FBI special agent who examined the preparation would later write that the work the subjects performed was fantastic. That single word, sitting in a classified government memo, fantastic, might be the most honest thing ever written about the 1962 Alcatraz escape. June 11th, 1962, shortly before midnight. 3 men moved silently through the utility corridor behind cell block B. Alan West is not with them. His wall section wasn't fully broken through. The concrete held just long enough. The other 3 didn't wait. They couldn't afford to. The tide was the clock, and the clock was running. They climbed the plumbing pipes, hand over hand 3 stories up, to the cell block roof. They cross it in the dark. They locate the large ventilation shaft, push through it, and reach the exterior of the building. Then a 50-foot descent down a kitchen vent pipe to the ground. 2 12-foot barbed wire fences, cut through, climbed over, a steep embankment in the dark. And then, the water, San Francisco Bay, black, ice cold, pulling in every direction. A 2014 study by scientists at Delft University of Technology would later run computer models of the bay's tidal currents on the night of June 11th, 1962. Their conclusion was precise and narrow. If the men entered the water between 11 p.m. and midnight, the currents could have carried them safely to Horseshoe Bay, just north of the Golden Gate Bridge. Any earlier or later, and the bay would have taken them. The men had no way of knowing this. They had a handmade raft, a concertina bellows, and each other. They pushed off from the island. June 12, 1962, 7:18 a.m. The dummy head hits the floor of cell B138. The FBI arrives within hours. Within 2 days, a rubber-sealed packet of letters is recovered from the bay. The men's personal correspondence, wrapped watertight. A wooden paddle surfaces near Angel Island. Fragments of rubber inner tube. A plastic bag containing a mail order receipt. Family photographs and addresses. The trail was there. And then, nothing. The Coast Guard searched the bay. Agents fanned out across the country. Every relative was interviewed. Boat operators were put on alert. But Frank Morris and the Anglin brothers had simply vanished. The FBI would pursue over 1,000 leads over the next 17 years. None of them went anywhere. In 1979, the Bureau officially closed its investigation. Its conclusion: the 3 men most likely drowned. No bodies were ever recovered. But officials noted that the currents could easily have swept them out to sea, beyond any chance of recovery. The case should have ended there. It didn't. From Christmas 1962 onward, members of the Anglin family claimed to receive cards and postcards. The brothers' mother received anonymous flowers every single year until her death in 1973. At her funeral, family members reported seeing 2 unusually tall men in the crowd, wearing heavy makeup. They believed they were John and Clarence Anglin, attending in disguise. In 1989, a man identified as the brothers' sibling said 2 strangers arrived at their father's funeral, wept at the casket, and left without speaking to anyone. In 2013, a letter arrived at the San Francisco Police Department. It was addressed to the FBI. The writer identified himself as John Anglin, 83 years old, dying of cancer, claiming to be the last surviving member of the trio. Yes, it read, "We all made it that night, but barely." FBI forensic analysis of the handwriting, fingerprints, and DNA was run. The results came back inconclusive. The writer was never heard from again. The U.S. Marshal Service kept the case open long after the FBI walked away. Frank Morris and the Anglin brothers remain on the Marshal's active wanted list until September 2026. At that point, all 3 men would be over 100 years old. The case will quietly close. And the only question that has ever mattered, will remain unanswered forever. Did they make it? In November 2025, YouTuber Mark Robber, alongside journalists Johnny Harris and Cleo Abram, built a replica raincoat raft using the exact same materials and methods Morris and the Anglins were believed to have used. They launched from Alcatraz at the same time of night, riding the tide, no motor, no modern equipment. They reached the Golden Gate Bridge. The escape, the one the FBI called impossible, the one officials said led to 3 drownings, was entirely survivable, under the right conditions at the right moment, with the right men. And those 3 men were exactly that. 3 bank robbers, 1 IQ of 133, 50 raincoats, 6 months of silence and patience and discipline inside the most secure prison in American history. Whatever became of them, whether the bay swallowed them whole, or they stepped out of the water somewhere north of the Golden Gate and simply walked away from the rest of their lives, they did what no one had done before them, and no one has done since.